So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Yeah.
What's going on, family? How y'all doing out there today? This is your brother Shabazz coming to you live back in Richmond, Virginia. I had a time in Detroit, but we ain't gonna talk about that because I can't really tell you what kind of time that was. But anyhow, what's going on, family? If you're tuning in, peace to Kevin, aka Mr. T. Call me the Pan-African Terminator. I appreciate that. Good. And peace to you, the Pin Library. What's going on, everybody? This is your brother Shabazz. You are watching The Perspective. Hopefully you're watching it on YouTube, maybe watching it on Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You know, we trying to get this simulcast type situation going on. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you hype this video. If you got extra hype points that you can toss my way, I would appreciate it. Let's see. Shout out to whoever. Okay, Husky Jet. I guess that's a brother on Twitch who says just went from 0 to literally 120 viewers in 1 hour. That's insane. Okay, that's great for you. Spread the word about At the Proper Perspective over here on YouTube.com. So, like I said, let me make sure I know how my mic sound, so y'all can let me know, especially on some of the other. My mic should sound pretty decent on YouTube. Hopefully it sounds good on all the other sites. So what's going on? How y'all doing? This is your brother Shabazz. This is The Perspective. I am back at it. We get this thing started. What we gonna be talking about today? Yeah, unfortunately, we got some more FBA information. Or no, I'm sorry, some more FBA misinformation to dispel, to challenge, to hack, to debunk. Yes, Mr. K, I am on Twitch. I am, well, hold on, Mr. K, let me say it this way. I have joined Twitch. I have signed up Twitch. I hope that the streams are going there. I don't know if they are. I'm very new with Twitch, so I'm just praying that the software is doing what they tell you this software does. Let's see. So again, like I said, we are be talking about the FBA lies, the smear campaign that never ends, the ADOS lies, the smear campaign that never ends. We're talking about this new tribe. Now, hopefully, what I give you today, I want to give you a lens. I want to give you a measuring stick. If you don't already have it, you may be already hip to the game. If that's true, hallelujah to you. This is more so. So this is one part preaching to the choir, and this is one part. Let me help pull the wool over your eyes that these voluntary CIA COINTELPRO style agent characters are trying to trick you with. It's called knowledge, if you know anything about Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. So, like I said, what I'm trying to give you today is not just an opinion. I'm going to try to give you a lens, a metric, a yardstick. Because what we got to realize is this ABBA crowd. What is ABBA? ABA. Anything but African. They will launch leech. Leech is a good one. They will hold on. They will seek out any identity other than the one that's rooted in DNA. Science is not even challengeable. No more challengeable than you can challenge whether or not the sky is blue. Well, okay, you can challenge it. You might be a fool, but you can challenge whatever you want. But this ABBA tribe, this anything African, they go by many names, family. They got names out the yin yang. So they got Soldier Black American. They got American descendants of slavery. They got one called Solon. Soul, S-O-U-L, double-A-N, Solon. I'd say so long to the so-ons. You got another camp called Freed, trying to make sure you do anything and everything to unfree yourselves. And they got this other one. And I'm not saying this list is exhaustive. They got another one coming around. They come around the corner, family. They call Black American First. They call BAF. And that's not even to speak on. Dr. Johnson is trying to get in on alphabet soup with his DAFA, descendants of, I don't know what that one meant, but he trying to get in on too. Okay, thank you to Mr. K for letting me know there are some technical glitches. I'm hoping, I'm a pray that they correct themselves. Every time I think everything is going well, it turns out to be terrible. But we go. Let's see. So all of these letters, Alphabet City, Alphabet Suits, what I call. So we're going to be talking about them. We're going to be talking about the lies that they use, the manipulation that they do. Because their number one rule is anything that ties them to their DNA is bad. It's like white supremacy dipped in chocolate, melanated white supremacy. All they want to do is be identified with anything that is not African. They mark everything Black as a threat. It's called divide and conquer. That's what it's called. It's called divide and conquer, plain and simple. And the sad thing is, we have been victims of divide and conquer for over 400 years, and we are still allowing divide and conquer tactics, techniques to divide us and conquer us. So, if you bring up Black studies that conduct us, that's a threat. If you bring immigrants who look just like us, that's a threat. You want to talk about the Juneteenth that feeds all of us? That's a threat. Nobody allowed to do that but us. Y'all trying to get us. Y'all trying to fool us. That's the whole conversation. That's every conversation that they have. That's all they know how to do is point out something Black and say, we can't have that. It's just like the white supremacists. So, what are we going to talk about? Now, the videos that I got for you today, I just got small. But so the video we got today, let me get this straight. The whole video is predicated on a conversation about Charlie Kirk. Y'all know who I'm about. Now, okay, I'll tell you straight. My position is this. Like, some people think, oh, he was a great baiter. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. So let's just get this straight. My position is that Charlie Kirk never did anybody. What Charlie Kirk was doing was not debate. He didn't run, orchestrate, manage, or participate in debates. He ran gotcha performances. He ran ambush theater that was built for the editing room. Those were not debates. Those were not honest conversations. So keep that in mind as we unravel this thing. And let me see. So where is this video I got to show? I got this video for you, family. So let me see. Let me bring this to the screen. And we're going to play this. This is, who is this? This is a sister named Dana with the data and a brother named Devine. Now, to some extent, Devine is sort of like running the argument or leading the argument, but that's neither here nor there. Let me go ahead and play for you what good couple is talking about. So let me. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Pull it up. Pull it up. Where'd it go? So where's the? All right. Let me get this start button here. Let me get this play button here.
It's an unfair
Y'all hear that?
advantage, right? Because his talking points are already downloaded. They are already set in stone.
Well, let me push back a little bit with you, because if I was that guy at that age, I would have still destroyed Charlie Kirk, because he was only 31. He's the same age as my daughter. I'm old enough to be his mother. But if me at that young age, I knew that it was public policies that disenfranchised Black America.
And how many of you are there? How many of you?
Now I'm gonna pause there just for a hot second. Now with this, I'm a slightly sort of kind of agree with Dana for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to attack the system. Now I may furtively disagree 99% of what she says, but I don't see a problem with what she just said. You know, they're trying to qualify, they're trying to characterize and discuss and analyze, or draw conclusions on what is that Charlie Kirk was doing. And she says, I would have beat him. Remains to be seen. And I'm not going to cast any assertions. But she's right in the sense that he was a 30-year-old man with, an extensive repertoire of knowledge. And he was running around to 18 and 19-year-olds. Like Mr. K said, a full-grown man debating with late teens, undergrads. He wanted to debate the academic professors that was on the campus. It ain't like he went to the campus. He went to the campus. But he didn't want to set up that's why I said none of it was a debate, family. Like Henrik Clarke said, I don't debate those who are beneath me. I teach. And he won't even doing that. He wasn't teaching. And Mr. K says, truth be told, Charlie Kirk would destroy Dana, not because he was more factual, but because Charlie Kirk could out-talk her as he was a smart aleck. Well, yeah. And again, it's one of the reasons why I will probably always maintain this position. I always tell people I don't do this. I'm not interested in these. Because, like, for me, unless you're going to set it up the way it did back in the day, y'all remember that movie Spike Lee did about debating? Unless you're going to set it like that, and it's a real, honest, rigorous debate, it's smokescreen. It's theater. And what wins theater debates is smart aleckness, sarcasticness, quick vibes, ad hominem attacks. That's not a debate. That's a performance. I don't got time for that. But anyhow, let me pull this back up. Let's keep going. Let me just go back to what they saying.
No, growing up.
That knew that?
Yeah. How many U's were there in your friend group alone?
Right. Well, you know what? Let me generalize it. I just think my generation knew it, but then I have to put the blame on my generation and baby boomers for not passing down that information or allowing the public schools to indoctrinate our kids with, lack of education.
And now let me give you a little.
Now again, you see, so again, like, so what I'm saying is, or what I'm going to be doing today, family, is I'm going to be, I'm going to pause it and whatnot for a couple of reasons, make a couple of good points, make sure, fair use, fair common use, and all that other stuff. So again, you hear Dana making this conversation. Let's say, so you hear Dana making this conversation, making these statements about indoctrination. Okay, there's truth to the idea of there is definitely indoctrination going on in the American public schools. That's without a doubt. So again, I don't necessarily differ with her. I don't necessarily disagree with her on that point. Y'all gonna see where the real starts to fall out. So here we
a little bit of an excuse, right? Like, let me take up for you a little bit in your generation, because this is something that we've been looking at as an organization, and what we're looking to do during this, what we call American Freedmen Renaissance, right? Is what they've done in a lot of these campuses is that they've replaced Black American studies with Africana studies. And Pan-Africans told us that those were the same things. And what we're finding when we look at the curriculum is that it is a globalist, all-encompassing, melanated, but mostly focusing on Africa kind of educational curriculum. And so they don't talk about Reconstruction. They don't talk about, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so you heard it, right? Here comes the games. Here comes the lies. Here come the lies. So you heard him say, and I'm gonna repeat this for everybody because some people can't see it and whatnot if you're on the other platforms. So you heard this brother Devine making this fallacious argument, this erroneous argument, that they replaced Black American studies with Africana studies. And Pan-Africans told us that they were the same things. And it's not. They're not the same. It's a globalist, all-encompassing, melanated, mostly focusing on Africa. And so they don't even talk Reconstruction, family. That's what he said. That's his argument. That's why I'm taking issue. That's why I'm taking aim. I don't mind if you don't like Black studies. I don't mind if you don't like African studies. I don't mind if you prefer the word Black studies to African studies or Africana studies. I don't care about that. What I care about is the lies. They replaced Black American studies with African studies. Okay, this is such a superficial take. There are programs all across the country where they change the name. But if you go look at the curriculums, just changed the name. If you go look at the curriculums, and y'all know I did, I'm gonna show you some of the curriculums. Now, Pan-Africans said they were the same thing because they are. Only in this newfangled other world, anything but African, can you even venture towards the idea of making this silly and spurious argument that Black and African are different. Black people on this planet, we've been calling ourselves Black people since the very first beginnings of civilization. Now, y'all see the little background I got, and I had a couple clowns I had a couple of trolls try to clown me and say, you ain't allowed to have that in the background. Africa is the Black land for all humans. Actually, it's scientific. It's the motherland for all humans. But I'm talking about the Black folk. The ancient Nile Valley civilization, they called themselves Black. Now, whatever you want to say about the Eurocentric grounds, oh, it's referring to the soil, more lies. And the research has been done, documented, proven, published time and time again. Kemet talked about Black people. We've been calling ourselves Black since the beginning of time. So I'm saying, if the people in the first civilizations called themselves Black, and those people were African, and we are African, you cannot make a legitimate argument that replacing the word Black in studies with African or Africana means you've removed Black or Black American. It's a fallacious, it's an erroneous, it's a despicably deceptive argument. And that's why I'm taking aim. So you catch the move that they did here. I want to throw that entirely on you. Catch the move that Brother Devine did. You catch the play that Brother Devine did. 3 steps. 3 steps. Step 1, replace Black American studies with African studies. Step 2, the Pan-Africanists supposedly lied. And step 3, the curriculum is globalist. I mean, we do live in a globalist economy, but the curriculum is now globalist. Painting it like that's a bad thing. Like we've been shorted, we've been tricked and bamboozled. This is the trick knowledge they like to push and promote. Now I'm gonna pause. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Mr. K says, oh, let me go back to the beginning. So John, yep, okay, Tony, let me see. Let me try all these things. Bawana, shout out to Bawana for entering. Bawana, I'm so glad I'm catching the show today because thank you for that. I'm glad you're here too, cuz. Tony Lewis, Africa is the tree with many branches. Shout out, true indeed. Tony Lewis, Black history didn't start with slavery. It started in Africa, exactly. And that's why FBAs are clowns. And I'm going to talk about that some more because they do the same thing to Carter G. Woodson. Now, Mr. K says, the nameless, hence no name Pan-Africans that claim in Black studies and Africana studies are one and the same. Right. And that's the thing. They never give you, say this is what Pan-Africans did, and never tell you not one Pan-Africanist that did it. They'll just tell you they did it. It's a smokescreen. And that's why I'm saying we got to have a better lens. Now, and when I say we, I'm talking about the brothers and sisters that hear this information and think it's true. They think it's accurate. You know, you're going to have to put your thinking caps on before you get bamboozled. Now, yeah, we are Pan-African side of things. We already know it's life. And we have a responsibility to call out. But you're going to have to learn how to, what's the word everybody likes to use when they talk about relationships? Discernment, family. You're going to have to use some discernment when you hear this hogwash. Now, Mr. Never Change says, I'm from Alabama. We always said we are not from Africa. Our paperwork and spoken history was too deep. I don't believe you. But if that's your story, when you say we, like, I'm like, well, what we is that? Because there are people in Alabama that also always say it's African. So Mr. K says there's no documentation that references the statistical data on the comparison between the professors and undergraduates who are Black Americans and Black non-Americans. Interesting point. Tony Lee says FBA were taught that their history started with slavery. And the funny thing is, FBA wants their history start with slavery. We as Black people, we as Black Americans, we as African Americans, ever since the days of Carter G. Woodson, if you want to go that far, if you don't want to go further, you can go further back than that. But it started at least with Carter G. Woodson. We as African Americans or Africans in America have always known there was something wrong with the curriculum. And that's why Carter G. Woodson said, I'm going to make sure we create a curriculum for our people, for our community that sets the record straight. And ever since then, we have been learning to various degrees, depending on what part of the country we live in, depending on what walk of life we are in, because not everybody is Pan-African, and not everybody has to be Pan-African. But we have, as Black people, whether we held the ideology of Pan-Africanism or not, we've all upheld the ideology that there are certain facts and truths need to be into the curriculum. Now, we can have an argument, we can have a conversation about how hard we fought. I don't think we fought hard enough. I think we gave up a lot too soon. I think we gave up a lot too early. I think we gave a lot of information. But that to the side, we have struggled, we have fought to make sure that certain information is in the curriculum. One of those facts has always been, we do not have our start in bondage. We are intimately connected scientifically, socially, culturally, religiously, spiritually, politically, and economically, just to name a few of the walks of life, to Africa, to African existence. But now, today, because of the CIA cult, influencer, fake leaders, people are more willing to say, I'm just an American because slavery is all we ever had. You are being everything that the oppressed society, if you don't want to call out by color, did to teach you in the first place. It's no different than the root scene. We gonna call you Toby, and you gonna like that name. You got the FBA saying, yes, yes, sir. That's what we want. But I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get off the soapbox. Get off the soapbox. I'm gonna get back to some of these comments. Mr. K really dropping. No pedagogical analysis of the curriculum and syllabus between Black Studies and Africana Studies. Exactly. And I got a bit of that for you tonight. I'm gonna show you some different. I'm gonna show you what the curriculum looks like. I may not do a full-fledged pedagogical analysis, but I'm gonna show you some stuff. Now, Curtis says, the only difference between Black Americans and Afro-Caribbeans is where their enslaved ancestors were dropped off. We all share the exact same roots. Exactly. 100%. And John said, exactly, they want reparations from Africa, yet they didn't come from there. The FBA crowd is the most confused crowd, I think, that there has ever been in the Black community. This notion, first you deny everything about Africa, then you get mad at everything Africa does. Like, if you are not African, if you are not connected to Africa, if you are not descendant of African, why do you care about what anything that they do over there? It would be the same as they spend zero time complaining about what Germany does. They're not Germans. But they spend 100% of the time complaining about Africa, but they're not African. There is some mental, I can't diagnose, so I stay away from that. So yeah, Mr. K says, Devine Prince talks like an academic reject. Yeah, pretty much. Let me see. All right, so family, let me get back to them. I do want to hit up all the comments. I appreciate them, and they are very important. But let me not lose this. So like I said, anything that ties Black America to Africa, to the Caribbean, to Brazil, to Blacks in Mexico, to Blacks in Canada, they want to label it as a threat. They want to label it as a problem. They want to label it as something awry is going on. We must attack it. We must get rid of it. This is the job of the enemy. This is the job of COINTELPRO. Well, COINTELPRO ain't active. They close it down. Yeah. And y'all volunteering to open it back for them. So this is what I'm going to say. Like I said, anything that connects us to the greater Black population, somebody has set them up to say they're the villain and we got to attack them. And that is the overwhelming impetus. That is the zeitgeist, is the ideology of the ABBA crowd. Anything but African. And so with that, I'm gonna put this next lens on the table. I'm gonna try to anyhow. And so what I'm gonna do is, let me see if I got the next clip I'm gonna play. So let me see. Now, well, before I play the clip, let me say this. Let me get this straight. I'm not saying that you can't have critique. I'm not saying that you can't have criticism for anything and everything Black, African or otherwise. I'm not saying that. But there's a difference between having a critique, having a criticism, having a challenge, and outright lying. So I'm not saying anybody with a critique of any element or part of the Black community is automatically wrong. I would never say that. I would never do that. What I'm telling you is, every time they come with something, check the receipts. That's what I'm saying. Check for the receipts. Do the research. Ask them to specify. Like Mr. K said, they love to tell you about the boogeyman. This Pan-Africanist told me. Which one? Then they start doing the you see what had happened was, because they don't know. They can't tell you. So do the research, and then you can make an assessment more effectively. Because here's what I find more often than not, every single time is what I want to say. What I find more often than not is if you do the research, if you do some homework, if you look into the claims that they make, sitting at the bottom of the well, sitting at the bottom of the complaint rabbit hole, is something that was genuinely, legitimately, effectively good for the survival, the advancement, for the thriving of Black people in one way, shape, form, or another. And they commence to tearing it down. Whether it's a connection, whether it's an institution, whether it's some form, semblance, piece of solidarity, they didn't really find a problem. There was no problem with it. But because they need to make it a problem, they manufacture weak, flimsy problems. They take the bridge that we've been building for all this time and set fire like an arsonist. They call the bridge a trap. So that's the lens. Ask for the receipts. That's the deal we dealing with. For the receipts. Now, again, what I like to do is I like to show receipts. I like to stamp the receipts. Sign, sealed, and delivered. And even though I make my own verdict, I let you make your own verdict. But they like to turn family into betrayal. That's their goal. Now, let me see. Am I ready for this next clip? Oh, well, before I get to the next, let's deal with the next, not the clip, because you already heard it. He said, what he said? He said, Africana is a recent globalist swap that erased us. That's what he said. And I'm like, okay, so if that's true, well, wow, if that's true, that's a shame. That happened. That's terrible. We need to fix it. I need to look it up. So where did Africana even come from? Since it replaced, where does it come from? Now, when you go do the research, you find out that another African American by the name of James Turner came up with Africana term, 1969. They coined it as the founding director of Cornell's Africana Studies and Research Center. And he did so to study Africa, North America, and Caribbean as one connected people. Now, if he did this in 1969, how we got this notion in 2026? Oh, they pulled a fast one on us. They just came in here. They just got here and they shifted and they switched and they swapped us out. This thing been called Africana Studies since 1969. So it's always been with us, just like the word African and African American. Now, more specifically, where did James Turner get his information from? Where did he get his influence from? Where did he get the impetus for coming up with this word? He got it from Henrik Clarke. He got it from Malcolm X. He got it from Betty Bass. So the word that Devine is calling a globalist plot came from the African American community, built by some of the most committed, infamous, famous Black nationalists in our community, in our history. But he says it replaces us. I tell you what he's doing. I don't know if y'all follow the Trump administration and what they were doing with Doge. But they got in trouble because at the hearings, they found out Doge was eliminating programs no matter who they helped. They were just eliminating programs based on a buzzword search. So they would look at an agency, they look at programs, and they would do a buzzword search. Is the word black ever mentioned in this 20-page document? If the word black is ever mentioned, the program gets shut down. Is the word woman ever mentioned in this program? If the word woman is ever mentioned, it gets shut down. That's what Devine is doing. Ooh, I see the word Africana. It's got to be bad, Emily. They done took us out. Not in there. I don't even know if Brother Devine been in a school. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. It don't seem like he been in an actual program. So now I'm gonna go a little bit further. Let's go to what is it? San Francisco State. San Francisco State. They founded their first Black Studies department in 1968. And that same department renamed itself Africana Studies in 2005. Nobody snuck in under our nose. It was announced. The Black Nationalist Department chose the bigger name to connect to the bigger population. That's not a globalist plot. That's connective tissue. Now he's mad at the bridge. That's anything but African. That's the tribe. Anything that connects you to Africa, they got a problem, and they start attacking and trying to pick apart. Now, and again, if they had a well thought out criticism, that's something that you can have an actual conversation about. But when they demonstrably lie, you know you're not dealing with honest information providers. You're dealing with a Fox News channel. That's what you're dealing with. Manufactured deceptivity. And he said, and so they don't even talk about Reconstruction. I'm not sure which lie was the biggest. He says that the Pan-African frame erases Reconstruction. So what's the single most important book ever written that rescued Reconstruction from the racist? I don't know if y'all know about this. Dunning School lie. There's a Dunning School idea, and it's all filled with lies. There's a book called Black Reconstruction in America, 1935. Black Reconstruction in America, written by W.E.B. Du Bois. Some people got a problem with Du Bois, but Du Bois is essentially the Pan-Africanist under certain lenses. That's the African American who organized the Pan-African Congress. The man who gave us double consciousness. The man who his problems, and I got problems with him. The man who realized what America really is. And he left to live whatever amount of time he could enjoy at what, he was up in age. But he said, that's it. I now see the error of my own ways. The same way they like to say Martin Luther King finally saw the light. I fear I may have, integrated my people into a burning house. I'm just saying, Du Bois was like, oh-ish, I gotta go. And he lived the rest of his life in Ghana. He died a citizen in Ghana. The frame Devine says erases Reconstruction. They don't talk about Reconstruction. But the Africana Studies is the studies that produced the book on Reconstruction. And nobody in these departments is giving up. Now he's pointing at the people who saved the subject and calling them the threat. That's anything but African. That's the ABBA ideology. Lie, family. Just say they did it. Ain't nobody gonna ask you. Ain't nobody gonna check you. Just assume you're telling the truth. So, where am I going with this? He also says, she changed everything black to African. What our ancestors did here, it'll be a footnote in the curriculum. That's what he says. Now that's the thing. We are a footnote in the Black Studies programs, in the Africana Studies programs. We, the African American presence, struggle, the culture is a footnote. Okay. Now you ain't got to take my word. I certainly don't take his. Now, what did I do? I did what I'm asking other people to do. Research, investigate, analyze the claim. So I went and did some little digging around the internet, pulled an actual course catalog, 2025 and 2026. The actual course catalog. This is what the colleges, what the universities, what the campuses use to let you know what they're doing in those classes. So I looked at Temple University. Now, though, if you know, Temple University, that's not just a random, it's not a random school. Temple University is probably, arguably, the most Afrocentric department in the country, arguably. And I'm not trying to get into, no, we are. But Temple University is one of the big universities with an Afrocentric department and curriculum. They got PhD programs. They got master's programs. They got bachelor's programs. Now, Dr. Asante himself essentially built it. He built the program. But by Devine's logic, if anybody trades Black America for a vague melanated Africa, they're a problem. So what's in the catalog? I said I looked it up. What's in the actual catalog? In the catalog, they got African American history since 1900. African American history since 1900. They discussed the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, the anti-lynching campaigns, Northern migration, the Marcus Garvey movement. They discussed the Harlem Renaissance, civil rights movement. That's all in one class. You can't do none of that and put African Americans as the footnote. That's the swap out. They also got, what is it? A course called History, what is it? 0829, a course called The History and Significance of Race in America. Now you sit with that. The name of the course is The History and the Significance of Race in America. Not in Jamaica, not in Brazil, not in Trinidad and Tobago, not in Africa. The course is designed for the history and significance of race in America. The course delves into how slavery thrived in America. The course deals with how a country that wrote, all men are created equal, in spite of their blatant, obvious hypocrisy. That's not a swap out. We ain't been removed. We ain't been replaced. We ain't pushed to the side. None of that. That's not, we've been erased. That's studying Klan, lynchings, the Great Migration, Garvey, Harlem civil rights, all taught inside the African-centered program here in America. But he told you, they don't even talk about us. They don't even talk about us. They built the whole degree on talking about us. you want to talk about Black studies having a problem, and this is really why I have such an issue. All of their attacks on Pan-Africanism just so happen to coincide with some other attack on Pan-Africanism by the dominant society. And so what I mean is, what a coincidence that this brother, that FBA, that anything but African squad members are trying to attack Pan-Africanism, insult, lie, besmirch the reputation of the things that are being learned and taught and studied on these college campuses. At the same time, the dominant society are trying to eliminate all of this from the college campus. Make them Negroes fight on two fronts, and we can divide and conquer them more quickly. When you go look at white administrations and you look at what they're doing, you see who the real enemy of Pan-Africanism, who the real enemy of Black studies, Africana studies. The enemy are these white administrations trying to shut down all of these programs. But you got, I'm sorry, sellout brothers. I have no other word for you. You have to be a sellout. You have to be a sellout to attack the people who are preparing Black scholars, the people who are grounding Black scholars in Black knowledge, in the Black American experience. And you're attacking them at the same time white counterparts are attacking them. That's a sellout move. But okay, set that to the side a minute. Set that to the side for a minute. That's Temple. We can go to, y'all like Howard University? We can go to Howard. Because Temple is a white school. I'm not saying that to be disparaging. It just is what it is. Temple is a predominantly white institution. No beef, no slights. So let's look at Howard. Black run, HBCU. Founded its Afro-American Studies Department in 1969. So we've gone from one white institution that's grounded and rooted in the African-American experience, but this fool said we've been swallowed out. Let's go to a Black institution, Howard University. And to this day, since 1969, Howard graduates are required to take African-American studies. No matter what your degree is. You could fall on that campus and say, I want to study gymnasiums, and you're going to take an African-American studies course. Now, African-American studies at Howard, they examine historical, political, cultural, and socioeconomic life of African-Americans. That's the hard truth. That's the bulk of the study. Yes, they add in, they have an adjacent column where they introduce Caribbean and they introduce the continent. But they are relational focuses. They are adjacent focuses. No, tangential focuses. The diaspora is the connection, not the replacement. The African American is the root. Like they say, it's the foundation. They got Intro to African American Studies. What do they study in that course? The slave experience in America. Life in post-rural and urban North America. The political track. If you're taking African American Studies on the political track, you get an overview of the institution of human bondage, slavery, and Black political thought and activism across the 1800s, the 1900s, right here in America. Again, We're not the footnote in the curriculum, family. If you go to Howard, we are the curriculum. We are the study. They changed the word black to Africana. They did not remove slavery. They didn't remove Reconstruction or civil rights. So it's, and this is the same move that they pull on Carter G. Woodson. I said I was going to talk about that. So, okay, I don't know what Lononio is saying. Predominantly white institution. Yeah, that's the phrase I was looking for. So I want to like divide just a little bit. That's the wrong term, but I'll digress just for a hot second, because this is what they did back in February. Carter G. Woodson. They like to, they wanted to claim it, and they wanted to jump up, stand up, talk about, well, Black history is just for us, family. Nobody else is allowed to join in and participate. We're going to uphold our ancestors. That's what they said. So they claim Carter G. Woodson. They're trying to take hold of his name. But they ain't never read Carter G. Woodson. They ain't never read Carter G. Woodson at all. Because Woodson said, we're going to study it all. Woodson said, center yourself. Center the African American. Center the Black man, woman, and child in America, in the United States, under the Uncle Sam dominion. But he said, study it all. And he said, start with Africa. So center yourself, but do not forget to connect. So this FBA, ADOS, anything but African tribe, either or. This is their mantra. Either or. It's either us or it's them. The lie. It's the lie that they continue to tell. They just look, well, how else can we lie? What else can we lie about? We lied enough about the Democrats. We need new lies. They describe a curriculum that doesn't exist. They hand you a Charlie Kirk talking point, and they want to dress it up. I was going to say they wanted to dress it up in kente cloth, but no, they don't. They'll run from kente cloth like a witch running from water. It's anything but African. It's the ABBA crowd. So yes, Mr. K says, FBA's co-opt the memory of Carter G. Woodson's name and completely bastardize his legacy and what he stood for. Exactly. Carter G. Woodson will be rolling, what they say, rolling over in his grave if he heard what they were doing. Now, shout out to Lononio. Hope I said your name right. He says, the African youth have a problem with the greedy politicians not doing their job, period. Okay, I feel you. Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact. So let me continue this thing now. So he says somewhere else in there, what was he saying? He said that we did that. Where we at? Okay, so yeah, he says, so they changed everything Black to African. Let me see. Anyone told you that you have cadence of a Baptist preacher? I swear. Actually, no, nobody ever told me that one. That's that you are a first on that one. That's quite interesting. Mr. K says Dana and Devine show consultancy with professors and graduates in both Black studies and Africana studies. They don't have any intention on doing it, because again, all they want to do is smear campaign. They're not interested in seeking out evidence and truth. And so again, when he said, what did he say? He says about the faulty stats. What was that? Let me see. Where is that at? Being taught on these campuses. Right. Okay, so I forgot. I thought I had this. Let me see if I can find that back on the thing. Here we go. That's it's coming up now. Let me play this next clip for you. Let me play this next. Here we go. Get this back onto the stage. And hopefully I can keep these other programs running. So, all right, check out what he says here.
Be a footnote in that curriculum. And so that's another thing that the Charlie Kirks of the world know, right? And the people that pay him know is being taught on these campuses, so he can come in with these faulty ass stats because, you know, your generation said, okay, you guys got to get this education, sent them off to school, and they changed the curriculum on us underneath our nose. And so they changed everything Black to African. And it took us away from all of this information and the stats that we should have at our disposal that would make us easily able to debunk Charles Kirk and his ilk. But when you focus on African things of that nature, and then on top of that, we don't know where we're assuming that most of these students are Black American, but a number of them, especially on these college campuses, are Afro immigrants.
All right, I'm gonna put a plug in it right there. So y'all can hear, what the fool said. And shout out to the FBA idiots for showing up. I appreciate your presence. Sorry that I called you an idiot. If you are not one of those that espouses xenophobia, you are not an idiot. But if you are one of those, description stands. So again, so here's what we're going to talk about. You heard him saying that on these campuses, because they remove Black from the programs, that's why Charlie Kirk was able to beat everybody in the debate. They're being taught on these campuses with faulty ass stats. I mean, you sound like a concerned brother. Your theory is dead ass wrong. Your theory is that the Africana Studies curriculum is hollowed out. And that's why Charlie Kirk can roll on the campus and win. I got two problems with this made up, fallacious, erroneous theory of his. So one, let me say, okay, so problem number one, let's look at the actual cases that Kirk went to. His American comeback tour, for example. Now, like I said, I did my research or whatnot, and I showed you Temple and I showed you Howard. I'm not saying Charlie Kirk went there. I do believe, if I remember correctly, he tried to go to an HBCU and you see what Chocolate did. But anyhow, so this comeback tour, it walked, what was it? I think his first stop was in February 2025. The University of South Florida, which had a Department of Africana Studies since 1969. He also went to Tennessee, Knoxville. He went to Minnesota. He went to Virginia Tech. He went to Ole Miss. Now, every one of these campuses have the exact department that Devine says was erased. The studies that he's mourning were sitting right there. Course catalog show it. The curriculum show it. They're sitting there on the campuses. Now, and I'll be frank, Kirk went there targeting those campuses. But what I'm saying is, if the curriculum was gutted, why did Kirk keep going? If the curriculum was gutted and they removed all African American stuff, why did Kirk keep going? So that's one of my problems. And I'll tell you why. Because the curriculum is never the point. Not Kirk and not even for Devine. When you look at who participated in the debates, they weren't debates. I said this at the beginning. He didn't debate the professors. He didn't even talk to professors. He didn't debate the department chair. He didn't debate a tenured Africanist. He set up a tent on campus. He pointed his camera. He called on freshmen. He called on freshmen. And now again, to Dana's credit, she pointed that out. A 31-year-old man, a professional man, well studied in the art of gotchaism, well funded by a multi-million-dollar campaign, organization, agency, budget, built to manufacture virality, viral gotcha clips. That's what the debate was. It was a manufactured product. Bought, paid for, sealed, and delivered by multi-millionaires sitting on a campus trying to make 18 and 19-year-olds look inexperienced, look foolish, look unlearned. 18 months out of high school. Now, if you actually wanted to test the curriculum, you would debate the people who teach the curriculum. Honest contest, an honest contest with peers, an honest conversation with other 31-year-old people who are deep in the trenches of the study. You debate the people who teach, not the students. But see, that won't make the clip. You need a mismatch. You need a manufactured method of making people look less than intelligent, making them look misguided, making them look in error. Now, Devine, I guess if I were to say, if I'm not going to come down on the brother too difficult, then I would say, I guess Devine don't have the discernment that he needs. He watched this rigged tape, this rigged video, and said, see, our studies failed us. He's got it. It's because they took our stuff off the books. I don't even know if those people were actually African American. They were probably immigrants. The dear brother got it backwards. Because the kids on those campuses, they didn't lose because African studies is weak. They didn't lose because African studies is not teaching facts and stats about African Americans. Those kids lost because a grown man with a budget, an edit bay, picked a fight with a teenager and sold you the highlight reel. It's predatory. It's just not of the sexual nature, but it's a grown man hunting freshmen. It's predatory. And then handing you the footage is proof that teenagers are receiving a worthless education. The fix is in. The rigged game is the story. Weaponizing it to attack studies that connect us, that inform us of our actual plight and what we need in order to fight back. But that's the job of the CIA, COINTELPRO, cult leaders who work for the divide and conquer team, whoever they may be. I'm not allowed to call them that. So let me see what Black American Homeland says. I lived, worked, and traveled for nearly 2 years to 10 African countries, an overwhelming majority of the Anglo-Black or antebellum Black Americans, Anglo equals English speaking, have never been to Africa. Well, that's true. I'll agree. Overwhelming majority of us have not been to Africa. Let's see. Mr. K said, Dana and Devine show no documentation that cross-references statistical data on the comparison between the professors and undergraduates who are Black Americans and Black non-Americans. Right. And they don't want to, because the truth is not their friend. The truth is nowhere near their friend. They wouldn't be able to make claims if they were going to do that kind of a research. But, you know, here's the part that Devine leaves out. Here's another part that Devine leaves out. And it's the part that gives the whole tribe away. Throw them in the trash for it. Excuse me. What am I talking about? What am I trying to? Black studies. Africana studies. I think I already said this. Black studies is under attack right now. But it's not under attack by Pan-Africanists. It's not under attack by immigrants. The real fire is coming from Temple, the godfather of Afrocentricity himself, Dr. Malefikete Asante. He went public in 2024. A white dean threatened a third of the Black male faculty with job insecurity and even forced one professor out. So like I said, the facts show they're trying to dismantle what we as a people, as a community, have built. New York University quietly dissolved its Africana Studies program in 2005. Now, don't get it twisted. Devine will get up there and tell you, good, we finally got rid of the Africana Studies, so now we got the Black Studies back. No. Because Africana Studies is synonymous to Black Studies. If you get rid of one, you get rid of the other. They're essentially the same. And Ron DeSantis in Florida, his administration rejected the AP African American Studies program curriculum outright. He just said, absolutely not. We ain't gonna have it. Not dealing with it. It's not allowed. That was the end of it. He ain't dealing with it at all. So again, you got all of these attacks coming to us. And you got all of these. I shouldn't say that because not my word. What is that? Amazing Lucas call them Sambo soldiers. But let me see. Where was you got all of these black coons, black sellouts doing the job of the dominant society, trying to help defeat, kick us down, remove us from the program. Anything but African. Now, let me see. What's the next thing I was going to pull us up? Let me see. Okay, hold up 1 second, family. Right, so here we go. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this onto the screen. It's not necessarily, it ain't look like it's showing. Let's see, got the banners there, got the notes there, got the music there. Where is the share screen? It has disappeared. Let me see. So, okay. Okay, where was I? So we got a current attack from white America, white administrations, the white college administration teams. White administrations, red state governors are defunding Black studies departments, Africana studies departments, gun faculty, banning courses, banning books, So the house is on fire, metaphorically speaking. Our house is on fire. And we can all see who's holding match. But brothers like Devine, sisters like Dana, want to tell us that the problem is the immigrants. Devine says, we don't even know if they're real African Americans. They're probably black immigrants, and they don't have no connection. They don't have no understanding. I would say this, even if they are immigrants, I don't concede that, but even if they are immigrants and they don't have a connection and an understanding of our plight, when they sit in an Africana Studies program that delivers the information about slavery in America and Reconstruction, even though he said don't have it, and deliver information about the Harlem Renaissance and all the other things that are in the curriculums, they'll get it then. But he says no lived experience, no connection to our story. Even if one of the reasons you teach is so people who don't have a connection to your story so that they understand it. So even if he was making a valid point, it still falls dead flat on face, because if no matter who you are, there's white folk that take Africana Studies courses. There's Asian folk that take Africana Studies course. They take those courses and they come out like, I didn't know that African Americans had it so hard. Now I understand. But he want to get rid of them. He want to support the people that get rid of them. And he wants to do it with a lie. Now, you can find a conservative. A Clarence Thomas would even lie. He would just say, we don't need it. This fool says we need it, but we need to get rid of it. And he said at the exact moment that the real arsonists are trying to torch the building and burn the books, he runs in, and instead of pointing at the people holding the match, he turns to you and says, it's the immigrants. It's the African doing it. It's the Koreans doing it. It's other black people doing it. All I'm saying is, brothers and sisters, intelligent thinking beings, whoever you might be, throw the finger. You know, they say, when you point a finger out at somebody, you're pointing three back at yourself. Look at the three that he pointing back at himself, because that's the real tell. Anything but African. That tribe, they got one move. It's pointing the finger anywhere except at the people who actually create the problems, set the fires. He even reaches for the word globalist to do it. Just another dog whistle. Just another dog whistle for the people, to shield the people trying to close down departments. You see, when a black man's critique of black folks connecting to other black folks was on the enemy's vocabulary, this is the lens, this is the metric. Pay attention. Whose script is he really reading? Whose people is he really pointing at? Now, yeah, they hate this. I know they hate it. Shout out to Black is Bowling. That's an interesting way to put it. Skin cancers go back to Europe. That's funny. But so, you know, we got Marcus Garvey. And I know they can't stand him. We got the Jamaican brother, Marcus Garvey. We got the Trinidadian brother, Kwame Ture. We got Shirley Chisholm from Barbados, I believe. And you, again, the anything but African crowd. They even throwing Malcolm under the bus because her mother was Grenadian. These are the black immigrants that he's trying to write off. When case in point, these are some of the black immigrants who helped foster parts of the most militant edges of the black tradition, of the very tradition he claims to want to defend. When you put all of these puzzle pieces together, if the house is on fire and a man runs in screaming about the neighbors instead of the arsonist, either he's working with the arsonist or he's turned into the arsonist. You can't find the water. And, I'm sorry, at this level, with this timing, in this day and age, pointing immigrants while whites are putting padlocks on department stores, gutting civil rights legislation. Nah, you can't be that stupid. You can't be that stupid, family. That's not an accident. That's not a misread. That's not misinterpretation. That's deliberate obfuscation. That's deliberate misdirection. Misdirection is the purest form of the zeitgeist of abbaism, anything but African. So let me see. Black American Homeland says, my concern with Africa is that they make it very difficult for Black Americans to be granted citizenship, establish a business there. I think African leaders fear influential Black Americans. That's a relatively valid concern. I would tease it out a little more. But again, like I think the other brothers in the chat said something about problems with the leadership. And so I would say is, if the leadership is problematic for the people naturally born in various countries, it would almost automatically be naturally problematic for those of us in the diaspora. There does need to be changes and work needs to be done. But that's the reason why we have to have, whether you call yourself a Pan-Africanist or not, you still have to have some semblance and form of unity and solidarity and work togetherness. I floated this idea out before. Maybe these anything but African, maybe FBA just hate the word Pan-African. I've had a couple, show up in the chat and say, I'm not against all Africans. If you said, time will tell, your words, your deeds will show and prove. But I mean, there is a thing to be said about working together to address the concerns about regaining citizenship. Now, again, I like to shout out, Ghana's doing a lot of stuff that is good. I'm saying they've created a perfect system, but Senegal has some very good things going on. I'm not saying they have a perfect system. There's stories about Burkina Faso having a system that's working out, but they're rolling it out very slowly because they have to really be careful about who comes in now, since they're doing something extremely revolutionary. But even Benin I think Benin technically has probably the best and the easiest citizenship program for the diaspora. So it's there, and we simply have to keep working on it. Now, Mr. K says, even actors like myself, who born and raised in the UK, have had a hard, I guess, time like getting citizenship, have had it hard getting citizenship, setting up businesses. Yeah, again, I think that's why I say it's full scale. It's not just like one particular. It's a governance issue that's we simply haven't tackled correctly yet. But let me get to this, because what was I was saying? I need to slow it down. I need to be careful. I need to be precise, because that's what we do here. Like I said, like, share, and subscribe. Hype video if you got a few extra hypes that you want to throw my way. But like, share, and subscribe. That's really all I want, family. Come over to youtube.com/@theproperperspective. And give me a like, hit that like button. But let me be careful and be precise. I'm not trying to field out paranoid conspiracies like Devine do. No, that's not my thing. I'm not telling you that every FBA or every ADOS I'm not telling you every single last one of them got a check for this stuff that they doing. I'm not telling you they own the government payroll for this stuff that they doing. I'd never be able to prove that. And I won't pretend to. But see, I don't have to. Because the assignment already exists in writing on the record decades ago. The FBI's COINTELPRO directive, they named it, prevent the rise of a Black Messiah who could do what? Unify and electrify the movement. Hoover put it on paper. The church committee dragged it into daylight in 1976. So I don't need a present day smoking gun. I don't need a present day CIA operative. History shows us the truth. The present carries the function. We are living in a time today, it doesn't matter if the COINTEL program is no active. The energy of it is what people are voluntarily picking up. The energy is isolationism. Isolate Black America from the rest of the global population, from every other Black populace on earth. Cut us off from our largest reservoir of natural allies, of real leverage and historical and spiritual memory. Shrink us until we are so small, so alone. We are once again easy pickings, easy targets. Let me say it this way. For some of the brothers and sisters, you may be, a participant of one of the Abrahamic traditions. I am not. But I'll say this. Judas didn't need to be on Rome's payroll to function as betrayer. He just had to do what he was going to do. And that's what anything but Africa tribalism is all about. They are all about the COINTELPRO mission voluntarily. They're doing the Bureau's job for free. And they're calling it pride. And they're calling it defense. They're calling it standing up for self. I don't need a conspiracy theory. Their ideology made manifest shows you exactly what they're doing and what they are about. That's just what it is. Now, if you think that this energy only lives online, or if you think that this energy only is on campus, now I used to think that it only lived online. It's feeding into the street. I used to think it might only show up at a campus, but that's not necessarily true anymore. And I think I got two examples for you. Same hand, same rule. Because I did I had to go and do some research. I did some digging. This is what shocked me. I found, and I told my cousin this, I said, I didn't find FBA in my hometown. I didn't find ADOS in my hometown. But I did find a couple of Black American first, BAFers. I found them in my hometown. And I was like, oh my God. Well, it is. They are here. New tribe, new letters, same old mess. And so I found this, I think this was the TikTok page. Say, if you're really down with Black Americans first page, we need to form a voting bloc. I said, oh, a voting bloc. Y'all heard that, right? They said a voting bloc. That's what ADOS started with. That's what FBA started with. Just let's lure them in by talking about politics. We need to form a voting bloc. Family, brothers and sisters, we are already the most disciplined voting bloc in this entire country. How do you start? That's like we need to start tires. They're already there. Let's start making fire. It's already been done. We are the voting bloc as it is. In 2024, Black voters, 83%. 83 to 16, I should say. In 2024, Black voters went 83 to 16 for Harris. Black women, 9 in 10. There's no group in America that votes more together in a voting bloc than we do. So what do you mean we need to start a voting bloc? We already got one. You need to stick with the voting bloc. So when you, again, the lens, the measuring stick, the litmus test. Well, if ADOS started with BS about a voting bloc, and then they got exposed for being supported by white supremacists, and FBA started with conversations about a voting bloc, and then they got exposed for being xenophobic haters connected to the same white supremacists that Yvette Carnell is. Walk like a duck, talk like a duck. I got some questions for you. Because I'm like, okay, so define block. What number are you trying to hit that we are not already hitting at 83? 83% for men, 90% for women. We already move as a block. So what is your new block going to do? What is your new block trying to do? Now, so I submit to you, you can only do one of two things. You can only do one of two things. Keep folks at home. And that's quite possible. Because that's what ADOS said. And that's what Tariq said. Don't go vote for the league. We're going to sit it out and show the world how much voting power we got. So now you come with a new name. You start up the same way. Voting block. We need to start voting block. So you're going to organize. That's my question. Like I said, we already got a voting block. So again, what two things is going on? You either want to keep people home or you want to switch the vote. You want to swap our vote for something else, another party. Which one is the BAFers going to organize? The only crack in our voting block in 2024 were the Black men who slid to 25% of supporting Trump. That's the only that's the only crack in the voting block. You need to work on getting them back. So you're either interested in slowing that shift, that drift, or stopping that shift, that drift, or speeding up that shift, that drift, increasing that shift. A block vote for somebody. Who? What party? Because a new Black bloc peeled off an 83% Democratic bloc only points in one direction. And it ain't the left. The left is the only side that's done anything towards getting any of the things on the Black agenda accomplished. The right has done nothing to get anything on the Black agenda accomplished. So what's the new voting block that you're reaching for? Anything African. Anything but African at the ballot box. Anything but African in the schools. Anything but African in the streets. Anything but African in the businesses. I don't care how many different letters they come up with. They even went so far, another said, only support Black American businesses. Don't support a Jamaican. Don't support an African. Non-Black Americans shouldn't profit off Juneteenth. So again, it's the FBA, it's the ADOS, it's the BAF, it's the divide and conquer. Now we're going to police the cookout. They're going to police the cookout. And it's always the same, the hypocrisy. Black American first. They ain't saying nothing about St. Patrick's Day. They go out, go run to a Irish pub on St. Patrick's Day. They mad. They don't point fingers. Not on Patrick's Day. The whole gatekeeping budget is going to get reserved for one day. The day that ties us to the nation. The day that ties us to the global Black community. That's the day you want to make sure we don't support no other Black groups. But you can run out there on St. Patrick's Day. You can run out there on Christmas. You can run on July 4th and give all your money to somebody white. Why is that? KRS said, why is that? We already do the reverse and it's never been a problem. We already do the reverse and it's never been a problem. What reverse are you talking about? I ain't gonna say all of us, but there's plenty of African Americans, Africans in the West, Africans here in America, Black people, Black Americans, who, even if we don't celebrate, even if we don't join in and participate, even at least on social media, when Independence Day comes, you'll see Black Americans saying, shout out to Haiti for your independence. Go for your thing. If you know about Jamaica's Independence Day, you shout out to the Jamaicans. These BAFers will I bet you be in the Mexican restaurants on Taco Tuesday and whatever the other Mexican holiday is. But they want to divide and conquer. They want to lay the stamp down on the holiday. Like I said, we will at least give a shout out to Haiti, to Jamaica, to Ghana on their Independence Day. That's all. And ain't nobody saying you must go out and spend money with them. It's just, yo, y'all got it too. Y'all under the same conditions and y'all got y'all day just like we got our day. Whether or not I even have a restaurant to run to in my city, I'm going to still partake in the idea. Another Black group with independence, another Black group that got their freedom. Recognizing another Black nation's freedom, that don't cost you nothing. So I'm a betrayal, family. Or does the gate only swing one way? The logic trap. The logic trap, and it's airtight. You want Juneteenth to be a federal holiday. This is the logic trap. And when I say you, I mean, well, yeah, you support the idea of Juneteenth being a federal holiday. A federal holiday is public by definition. A federal holiday is country is the government saying, as a nation, we all, in spite of our differences, recognize the day as important to the country. That's what a federal holiday is. So the second you accept, you fight for, you establish, the second you accept the nation's rubber stamp on your day, by nature, by fact, by default, you accept the nation joining in however they'll see fit. Now, today, marketing economy, this is a consumerism economy. So every holiday is an opportunity for businesses to dance in your face with sales and discounts and whatever it is they think will have you give them money. You don't get the publicness of the holiday and the exclusivity of the holiday. You got to pick one. That's why, like, there's this movement, the grassroots Malcolm X movement. Some people want Malcolm X's birthday to be declared a holiday. And some people are like, hold on. We don't want this rubber stamping nothing about Malcolm. Because they understand once you throw it onto the federal national calendar, you've given everybody permission to do whatever the hell they want. You don't get both. You got one. Members only observance, keep it off. Nobody's stopping you. Go build it. Go run it. Go keep it on your own. Create your guest list. But you ain't doing that. Again, FBA, ADOS, BF, Solon, DAFA, whatever. Y'all ain't built nothing. You're running your mouth. You ain't building nothing. You just claiming. That is all you're doing. Let me see. You're not booking venue. You're not lining vendors for your own event. You're not doing any work. You're just complaining. You just want to walk up to the people who are doing work and scare them. Whisper the organizer's ear. The Jamaican lady can't sell all patty at the table. That ain't a movement. That's be a veto power with no labor. You want to run the cookout, but you didn't cook anything. And the last question is the same one from the top of this whole thing. Every single villain in your story, Africana Studies, the Jamaican businesses, the African vendor, the Pan-Africanists, the Juneteenth crowd, every villain in your story is connected to the wider Black world. Every villain, everybody you can't stand, recognizes that their DNA says Africa is a connector to us. Not once does your finger land on the people cutting the funding. Not once does your finger land on the people holding the government purse strings and power. Why does it only ever land on Black people? That's anything but African. To a cookout near you. That's it. The question is why? So what I'm saying, take this lens, you take this demand for receipts, you take this critical thinking analysis, take that lens with you when you end up somewhere and you're encountering these babbling fools. Mix them, make them give specific examples. We got one tribe with many different names, anything but African, whether they are FBA, ADOS, DAFA, BAF. I'm getting tired of the name. I'm getting tired of letters. Alphabet City. Now, I caught them 5 times. 5 space to Sunday. They mad at the departments. They mad at the school departments. They mad at the curriculum. They don't even understand that they're watching rigged tape, a fake debate. They mad at the ballot box. They angry with the cookouts. Run it down 5 times, finger pointing at a supposed threat, another Black person, while they got white folk out here literally trying to take everything from them. White politicians are publicly, openly saying we want to get rid of the 13th Amendment, we want to get rid of the 14th Amendment, we want to get rid of the 15th Amendment. But they swear a Black Studies department has removed Black people from the curriculum. And that's a problem because 19-year-olds couldn't defeat a 31-year-old multimillionaire in a rigged debate. Every time you check the receipts, you find a bridge to the communities across the planet. You find a connection to communities across the planet, something that ties Black America to the rest of the Black world. And you find this, and tear it down, destroy it, set it on fire. So, next time you really one of them, the anything but African crowd, and you hear them, you encounter them, and they're screaming, connection is the deal. Don't swallow that BS. That's Kool-Aid from Jim Jones. Check the receipts. Make them give you the receipts. Follow the finger pointing. Watch where they refuse to point. Watch who they refuse to talk about. They only talk about the bridge. See, the bridge is not the trap. People telling you to burn the bridge, they're the problem. They're the trap. They're the sellout. That's just what it is. Hunt said, bro. What does Hunt say? Brunt says, bro, if you put a paycheck under a Black guy, work boots, they won't find the check. Okay, I don't know who you're talking to. Thank you for, let me see. Bawana says analysis. Thank you for that. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Hunt is a troll. Blacks crying broke. Blank whites maybe do what you preaching. Okay, yeah. Troll. Appreciate that. Bawana for saying great lecture. And that's that bot. Yeah, we got a lot of trolls in here. Let me see. Doom Mega says all praises due to Shabazz. Let me catch that replay. Okay, that. Thank you. Mr. King says Devine and the FBA are not forming an FBA students movement. Thank you. This is a great one. You don't see Devine, you don't see Dana, you don't see FBA, you don't see Solon, you don't see ADOS, none of them. They're not forming an FBA students movement on any campus, anywhere. They're not forming FBA studies anywhere. Like starting in the 60s, probably before that, but I'll just go back with the 60s. Black studies, before we even had the Black studies departments, Black students, Black professors were coming together and organizing Sunday schools, weekend schools, after school classes to provide this information. That's grassroots movement. FBA ain't doing that. ADOS ain't doing that. Black people came together and protested and rallied and et cetera, et cetera. They campaigned for Black studies and Africana studies to be made manifest on campus in official, clear commanders. FBA ain't doing none of that. And like Mr. K says, that is proof that FBA are grifters. They are, what is it? Content, rage baiting. So Black American Homeland. Problem is that the Democratic Party doesn't have revolutionary ideas for Black Americans, such as helping Black Americans obtaining supermajority and governing control over southern states. I would agree with that. There is, like, to some extent, for the most, or maybe even for the most part, I would agree. But I will also say this. Part of that problem is that we, as the 92%ers of African-American women, the 80 to 85%ers of African-American men, all of us that did vote, that do vote, aside from the fact that there's so many more that didn't vote, we do not stand. I said earlier, we already function as being bloc. Now I stand by that, but we don't function as an organized body within the Democratic Party to make our demands. But that's part of the problem. We wait for the echelon of the party to give permission. We should be fighting those agendas, because and one of the things is, on the local level, you primary any. I'm not against primarying a Democrat. I'm against voting for a Republican. Since we vote in lock, stock, and barrel, so to speak, with the Democrats, we need to do the next step. Part of the problem is we think that voting is the end all. We'll gin up to get registered. We'll gin up, goddamn vote on the day of the election, and then mum's the word. We have to stay just as focused, just as dedicated, and just as present after the election in order to get the agenda made manifest. If we stop at the voting booth, that's us dropping the ball. Now, Bois said that's president who is elected 77 million people to vote for him. So if FBA decided to vote for themselves, only they would be 30 million short every election year. I may not have caught that, but let me see. Shout out to Dick. I don't understand why anybody votes for an government. Me neither. I'm telling you, like, it's not like it's a mystery. It's not like it's known. It's clear that this, like, I mean, these people put a whole book together and published it and said, I dare you to read. Here's everything we can do. And everything in the book was, we taking away your rights, no matter who you are, black, white, or otherwise. We're going to do everything, Project 2025. We're going to take away every right imaginable. And people still came out and voted. That's why you got, even in middle America, you got all these white farmers going on TikTok. Oh my God, I'm losing my farm. Trump. Yeah, you voted for him. Voted for him. Old school, I agree with you. Old school 668 says you have to have an economy behind your vote. This is true. I would like to say that maybe black people are waking up to trying to help foster and create this economy. And in fact, I'm not even mad that the BAF fools were trying to promote supporting black business. I just have to believe that you can support any and all black businesses. You don't have to say, I'm not going to support a Caribbean business. Try to keep me from eating some jerk chicken. If you want to, I'm out. So Wild Television said FBA taught immigrants how to vote, all Democrats, without asking. Now they're complaining instead. And that's the other thing, because not only do we vote as a bloc for Democrats, when you look at when they do the polls, the egg polls and all this other stuff, to break down demographics, the overwhelming majority of immigrant groups vote Democrat, especially the black ones. Yes, a few that don't, but that's the problem. Again, FBA and all of them, they find the few, find the one bad guy, and blame everybody for it. Say it's everybody. They did this with the Somali thing. That little committee of Somalians, that little silly jokes on you news press release conference thing, saying that they stand with Donald Trump and they vote for Donald Trump and whatnot. They were the smallest, teeniest, tiniest part of the Somalian community. I remember looking at it, I can't remember the numbers now, but it was like, I think it was something like 80 to 90% of Somalians across the country vote Democrat. So you're like 10% of Somalians in one community that said they was going to vote for Donald Trump. which the FBA said they like anyhow. But the FBA said, see, these immigrants, they voting against our own interests. They even trying to get us out of here. They voted for the same person we voted for overwhelmingly. And the ones that you were complaining about actually voted for the guy that you said you wanted to win. You said, don't vote for Kamala. Those fools said, we're not going to vote for Kamala. And you still complaining about them. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. An FBA vote block. I thought that is the block. The FBA voting block is the couch, and that's why I can't stand them. That's one reason why I can't stand them. Black American Homeland. Let me see what you said. You said Frederick Delk proposed anti-Blum Black Americans established their own dedicated political party, as neither Democratic nor Republican parties have Black American best interests in mind. Is that the name Frederick Delk is new to me, so I don't know if that's something that just came about or if that's a historical thing. Again, I don't have an issue with Black Americans forming their own party. As a matter of fact, there is a Black American agenda political party that's in the works right now. I think they are planning for a session, a meeting, an event, a conference in 2027. Hopefully that's going to be something. I don't have a problem with creating an American political party because independents do it all the time. Now, I have a problem with I might have a problem with how it is executed, but time will tell on how it's executed. Let me see. Coda says, Coda says, I may be missing something. Coda says, like the Democrats brought, here we go. The Democrats brought in millions of illegals to become voters for Democrats. Okay, that's fake. I'm not sure if he means that sincerely. Imagine if it was the other way around and a white person talked about a white-only voting bloc. White people do talk about white-only voting bloc. It's called the Republicans. So I'm not sure what, I don't know if Cole is like, being a troll or being, inquisitive or whatever, but white people do talk about voting blocs. It's called the Republicans. The overwhelming majority of the Republicans are white voters. Even when it's a black candidate, the black candidate can't win without all of those white Republicans voting for him. But I will say this. I think this is also interesting. You say the Democrats and millions of illegals to become voters for the Democrats. You do know that the Republicans are the ones who let them slip across the border. And the Republicans are the ones that sent them to blue states. They could have kept them in the red states. It's the red states at the border. They could have turned them around. Since they said that's what they wanted to do. No, the Republican red states rented buses, they use your taxpayer dollars to put all of those so-called illegal immigrants on buses and airplanes and ship them to the blue states. But you blame the blue states. Now, let me see. Buwana says, Jerry Rawlings lived in Ghana and part of the Ghanaian military. Okay, that's true. Because Black American Homeland said, I thought Jerry Rawlings was a Black American. I never heard that one. Ever. Let's see. Every country should view who they grant citizenship to. Would you want everyone to come to America and giving citizenship without being properly vetted? It would be a free-for-all, even people on the run. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong about a vetting system. What's wrong is how you apply the rules. What's wrong is whether or not you apply the rules judiciously and fairly. And now we all know, I think we all know, most of us should know that ain't likely to happen. Black American Homeland says, good example was the former president, Jerry Rawlings, whose mother is native Ghanaian and father was a Scottish citizen. Jerry Rawlings, who I thought was a Black American, ruled Ghana for 2 decades. He definitely wasn't a Black American. Let me see if I can go back up to some of the earlier comments. All right, I saw that. I saw that one. Let's see. Now, Bois says the Black homeland. Why would African governments fear you coming to open businesses there when there are American businesses already in African countries, also Chinese businesses, Indian business? Now, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe fear is the operative word. I see that, you know, Bois and American are having a conversation. But I don't think African governments have any fear of African Americans coming over to do business. Now, you might be able to make an argument that there are some African citizens in various countries, you know, that might have a fear, whether it's warranted or not. I don't think it's the governments themselves. Clearly, if you wanted to have a conversation about citizens with some fears, you can look no further than what's going on in South Africa. And you can see the citizens with some fears, if you want to call it fear, and you want to call it hate. But I don't think that governments themselves, I've spoken about this before, at least with one very clear example, because a lot of the crowd was saying there aren't Pan-Africans that do anything. African governments, it's all them trying to take from us. And I'm like, well, if I can find you one example, will you let up on your idea? Yeah, but you can't find no one example. I found one example. And there's a African-American brother with a t-shirt company, or let me say a clothing apparel company. And he has a contract with the Nigerian government to outfit the Nigerian Olympic athletes. And he took it a step further, not just for he himself. He created a supply chain where he uses cotton from various Black American farmers to create athletic gear. He's got a contract with the Nigerian government to do that. And I said, okay, so there's your example of at least one African American doing business with other African Americans and the Nigerian government. And as much as I'm like, you know, as many problems as the Nigerian government has, that ain't one of them. So again, no, African governments, I don't think they have any kind of problem with African Americans coming over there. They're courting us to come over there. So let me see. Anything else going on in the chat before we get ready to get out of here? Let's see. King Vine says, so Black people don't vote Republican. It can't be all white voting bloc if Black people vote with Republicans too. Okay, so you got on the technicality, it's not all white. 9%. 90%. I'm just saying, overwhelming majority. Overwhelming majority. Black American Homeland says federal elections, president, vice president versus state elections, governors, U.S. senators, congressmen, and other statewide positions. The Black population is large enough to obtain control over a few states. This is actually true. Well, let me go down. I can believe that is true. I don't want to, I do my best not to stand on it without having checked it myself. But I understand, seems quite reasonable to lay out there. You know, there is definitely there are a few states where we could run and control it all if we got together and figured out how to get work. But again, that does become very difficult when you have, like King Devine said, there are some Black people that vote Republican. Well, you're not gonna get that control. You're not gonna get that control when you have Black people willing to vote Republican. When you have Black people willing to not vote at all, then you're not get that control in any of the states. Well, I won't say in any of the states, but you're not gonna get it, like, I guess, collectively, regionally, simultaneously. The idea would be just like in the Reconstruction era. If it's so many of us that vote at the same time in the same election that we do pick the representatives for those states, you get them all in there at one time. That's one of the other problems why HR 40 on the national level, and it's a couple of other bills that are out there on the national level from congressional Black caucus members, they get stalled because there's not enough Black representatives to force the vote. Because in some states where Black people could send another Black person, we end up sending a white person. Good or bad, that's just what it is. But shout out to ADOS, who says thank you for the information and dedication. So again, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, this is your brother Shabazz. We've been talking about the anything but African crowd. We've been talking about the tricksters, the FBA, the ADOS, the DAFA, the BAF, the Salon. I didn't mention today, but the Aboriginals, the Abos, the Pretendians, the Lie campaign, but we've been talking specifically about Africana Studies and Black Studies. The lies that Mother Devine and her sister Dana spoke on in reference to Black studies being replaced with Africana Studies and the African American struggle being removed from curriculum. A total, absolute hogwash lie. I appreciate you for paying attention, listening. I love everybody who's dropped comments. Like, share, and subscribe. If you got a few extra points, you can hype this video, share with somebody, and catch me on the next one. I typically, just to let you know, I do this on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's my most prominent, consistent schedule is Tuesdays and Thursdays. You hit the notification bell. And the notification bell, you hit all, and then you'll get them whether I'm live or I'm just uploading something that is interesting for you to take a look at. Let's see. So like Tuesdays and Thursdays is the most. When, as often as possible, I do another with my cousin, the outstanding scholar, Dr. Dennis Assault. We try to go live together on Saturdays at 8. Schedules, life be life. So sometimes I'm unavailable. But anyhow, like I said, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit all, so you can catch it. I will see you Thursday at 5 o'clock. That'll be on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. All of those are possible, and Twitch. All of those are possible. But I am absolutely 100% always on YouTube.com/@theproperperspective. Yes, shout out to Gastino. I appreciate you for showing up. It is over. I'm about to get up out here. Unless you had a question that, if you caught some of it and you had a question, then I would entertain that before I get up out of here. Rough Frame, don't care about stupidity, but Rough Frame says, you were never a slave, sir. You're now an American. Welcome to reality. Have a nice day. Yes, have a nice day, fool. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, if you care to be informed on real truths, like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to holler at you. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So